Welcome to yet another very exciting edition of Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition here on Atlantic Television Network. On this edition of the program, of course, you know the biggest sporting event, the Olympic Games in Paris, will be our focus. We'll look at how Team Nigeria ended the competition without a medal. And beyond that, we'll look at how some African countries, of course, are entered onto the medals table for the very first time and breaking records as well. From the world of football, the Community Shield is announcing the arrival, or just say, of football for the 2024-2025 football season. Manchester United against Manchester City at Wembley Stadium. We'll give you reports of the result of that and many more when we return from the break.
Greenwood's went for goal. Goalkeeper missed it. He does a right hand and down goes Hooper straight away. Oh, what a point to end it on. So now this is when they're at their best. That's when they're 12 years for this. So drink it in. Still goes to Ireland. What he loves to be immortality as an athlete. 19.79. It's a goal. It's 8 goals.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring on sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
People into the country illegally. That is amazing. Honorables, you.
Welcome back, Sports Extraordinary Weekend Edition, and this weekend our focus is on the Olympic Games, where Team Nigeria didn't come back with any medal from Paris 2024. Kingsley, the Olympic Games is here, and you are here as well.
Yeah.
You're a Nigerian. Nearly 200 countries, are out there in Paris, and so far we've seen 10 African countries on the medals table. Nigeria, superpower, giant of Africa, not on the medals table at the 2024 Paris Olympic Games.
Yeah, it's very, very disappointing outing for Team Nigeria. I think one of the worst outing for Team Nigeria. The last time we saw something like this, I think that was in London 2012. It was another worst outing as well for Team Nigeria. This time, it happens to be the same. And from what it is, I think for me, a lot, of course, has to be looked into at this point. Because you take a look at the fact that we participated in 12 sports. And we were not able to get a medal in all of these 12 sports. We went there with over 80 athletes, and at the end of the day, still nothing to show for 80 athletes, 12 sport discipline, and we're not able to get a single medal, even a bronze medal. For me, I think a lot has to be done, when the athletes actually come back into the country, because it's really a poor performance. When you take a look at other African countries like Uganda, Ethiopia, Kenya, South Africa, talk about Tunisia, Egypt, picking up medals in this one. And then you ask yourself, where is Nigeria, the giant of Africa, to say, were nowhere to be found, on the medal table, down onto the last day at this point. In fact, we're done participating in the Olympic game for this particular edition. And the stars now, I think they will be coming back home, and the sports minister, of course, will see what to do to make sure that the athletes, they get a better preparation ahead of the next Olympic, that will be coming up, as it stands. For me, I think a lot of work has to be done. We saw what really happened. I think despite the high level of preparation, the sport ministry and different sporting federations actually boast of, I don't think they had a better preparation, because we also saw hitches. Well, remember the issue of Favor Philly. We also remember the issue of Epre Eze, the cyclist, who also couldn't get a bicycle, of course, to race down there in Paris. So for me, I think the preparation was not in good shape. Athletes, of course, yes, if you take a look at their timing, you will see they had an improved timing. But when you have an improved timing and your time cannot get you to the podium, it means you have not done enough. So for me, I think the sports ministry has a lot to do. The different sporting federations have a lot to do. According to the sport minister, John Wan, he said that he's really going to look into the next sporting federation election that will be coming up, that we have to make sure that we have the right people. We have the people who have passion, people who are committed, to making sure that sport develops. But they don't have to maybe take anybody or probably elect anybody into being the president of any federation. They have to look into it. Do you have the zeal? Do you have the passion? Do you have the commitment? Can you take up that sacrifice? That's what, of course, we need. Those are the people we need at this point in time. Not people that are just there maybe to be there in that position or probably for money. Take a look at what Dan Legali is doing with the Wrestling Federation. We understand was also a poor outing for the Wrestling Federation. The likes of Blessing Obodo couldn't get something this time. But last time in Tokyo, she was able to get something. Oduna Adokoro, the same thing. Now, somehow you can cut them some slack because their performance was a little bit hindered by injury. And for me, the rest of the wrestlers, of course, couldn't live up to expectation. But when you take a look at how they've been training, having different meets, you definitely give it up to Danny Gali for being able, of course, to put the Wrestling Federation together. Same thing with Badminton Federation. It didn't also go well with them, where we saw Onoluapo Perry, of course, couldn't hold his own down there. But aside from this federation, I don't think, we've actually gotten it right in terms of other federations. Table tennis is nothing to write home about. Even basketball, I think for me, it was due to individual brilliance and what Rena Makama was able to do that we saw the D Tigers get that far down to the quarterfinals of the basketball events down there in the Paris Olympics. Aside from that, it's been an abysmal one. Football events was a total, it was really an awful one, because the Super Falcons couldn't even get a win. Yes, we understand they played against a tougher side, the likes of Japan, the likes of Brazil, Spain and the rest. But I think for me, they would have possibly see how at least to get a win and all of that. So for me, I think a lot of work to be done at this point in time. Was really a very, very abysmal outing for Team Nigeria. If they don't get this right, I tell you, Mr. Siri, we'll continue to see this poor outing going forward.
Poor outing for Team Nigeria at the Olympic Games for 2024 in Paris. Of course, the Olympic Games comes to an end in a couple of hours' time from now. But we'll take a look at how Team Nigeria had performed. And like you heard there from Kingsley Manuel, it's been a abysmal performance from Team Nigeria. In spite of taking part in 22 sports, in 12 sports disciplines at the Olympic Games, with over 80 athletes, Team Nigeria is returning back to the country without a medal. This has, of course, enraged the sports minister, Senator John Edong Ewan, who is of the opinion that there has to be a thorough review. He says he doesn't mind if he has to sit down before any committee to see how these reviews will be done. He's already saying that with the elections of the different federations coming up, that he believes that there will be really thorough search for those who are competent to run this federation. Do you think it's about the federation, or it's about maybe the way these sports are being run? Well, if it's been run in the country, then it has to do with the federation.
Yeah, for me,
because he's talking seriously. Elections to the federation boards are coming up, and he's saying that there will have to be outright scrutiny into this, who comes to run this federation.
Yes, for me, I think everything boils down to the federation. If the federation are active, if they are doing well, definitely these athletes will do well whenever they go for competitions like this. But in a situation whereby the year in, year out, there is no meet, there is no training, or probably there is no national competition for these athletes, how do you expect them to perform? You only see them maybe at the national youth games, national sport festival.
But that's talking about how these athletes, get to the Olympics. The minister has talked about trying to, probe or investigate what went wrong, in spite of in his own word, providing everything that was needed for these Olympic Games. At what point were these provisions made? We only heard of 12 billion, 9 for the athletics, 3 billion for special athletes, a cumulative sum of 12 billion being approved for that. Is it now that the competition is on in Paris, or this should have been given to them? Like we talked about grants here the other day. How do you give training grant to athletes when they are actually competing at the Olympic Games proper? Yeah. Training grants are supposed to be given to them many months, many years before they get to the Olympics. But this is the time they are being paid. So it looks like the ministry cannot absorb themselves of blame. It looks like they are shifting the ball now more to the federations. But you don't provide money at the wrong time and expect to get the right result.
Yes, for me, I think also the sport ministry, they are not also left out of it, or the sport minister is not also left out of it at this point. You came in and you understand that this athlete, of course, they've not been paid training grant, for a very long time, and you would have probably done that before the Olympic Games, and not paying them, when the Olympic game, of course, is on at this point in time. Even the 12 billion naira we hear they doled out, I think it was about two weeks to the Olympics. That was when they actually, dole out that money. And if you ask me, at some point, it will actually hinder the level of preparation that, because when the money is not released in time, it becomes difficult for them to use the money or discharge the money to use it to do what they want to do at this point. So I think the sports ministry, or the sport minister, he also has a little bit of the blame, of course, to take for this poor performance from what we've seen. It's not about the money. It's not about bringing out 12 billion and say we're ready for the Olympic game. A lot of work has to be done. If you take a look at it, 80% of the athletes we took down to Paris Olympic game were almost foreign athletes. We don't have home-grown athletes. We don't breed athletes down here in Nigeria. And that's the reason I want to come up.
No, but that I don't completely agree with you. Even if you breed home athletes here in Nigeria, you cannot train them here in Nigeria to be of Olympic standard. Definitely, you must take them out where there are facilities. And that reminds me of the case of Morocco. Morocco, in the last 12 or even 20 years or so, they've invested in facilities, and we are beginning to see the result of such facilities. Morocco is winning, getting medals for the first time, at the Olympic Games in certain sports, and we've seen them, become continental champions in all level of football, from the under 17, 23, and all of that. They are becoming champions, in football. They played up till the semi-final of the World Cup. It has to do with a long-term investment on facilities and training and retraining of officials as well. Then, of course, the celebrated case of Rene Wakama. Yes, she's a local Nigerian coach, but she's not based here. Yes. She's based in the United States of America. She played at basketball in the United States of America. She trained. She's been coaching in the United States of America, where there are enormous facilities, for such. So I always think that we can only discover talents here and ship them out, because we've not invested in facilities, that will see these athletes become of Olympic standard. To be an Olympic champion is not a 2 years or 3 years program. It's not even a 4 years program to be an Olympic champion.
Yes, I understand, Mr. Siri, and for me, I think even while we're even though we're looking at this direction, you just pointed out, I think there's a need. We should draw that plan. What's the plan on ground, to develop sporting facilities in the country? That's the big question. We'll talk about Morocco, okay, developing sporting facilities, and now they are reaping the fruits of their labor. They're reaping the fruit of what they've invested for a very long time. Yes, while we're looking forward to push our athletes down there to go, get trained with the best of facilities, I think there should be that, ideology of also making sure that there are adequate and very, very efficient sporting facilities in the country. At the end of the day, you ship this athlete, okay, outside the country, is money. All of this costs money. We understand what Sunday Dare did during his time. Was able to, put up and adopt an athlete initiative where we saw corporate bodies coming to sponsor this athlete. Less of affiliate. Toby Amoson also benefited, as well as some of them as well. but that might not come at every time. It might not be, on regular basis, and that's the need why we have to look into that direction. What are those things we have to get? What are those facilities that we have to get? Start working on there. It might not be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but you need to have. Morocco we're talking about, they have a very long-term plan, and that's why they're reaping what they've been able to invest for a very long time now. Yes, while we're looking at sending these athletes out there to go get the best of training and then come participate for the country, we should be looking forward to, making sure that we actually put up facilities down here in the country. Most of, like this particular Olympic, we've seen athletes, Nigerian athletes competing and participating for other countries. It's really, really embarrassing because we're seen not to be that very serious when it has to do with, sport down here. We don't have the facilities, administrative-wise, we don't get it right. We'll go out there and it becomes a national embarrassment. Take a look at what happened to the cyclists, where they have to borrow, a bicycle from the German club to help her. So for me, I think in all of this, we're not really serious. For me, I think first thing first, yes, try and see what we can do in terms of facility development in the country. While we look forward to see how the athlete can get the best of training out there, we'll give them the best of coaches to see how they can, equip them. So if we don't do this, that means we'll continue to struggle, maybe until when we start trying to see how we can fix 1 or 2 facilities to make sure that these athletes, train. So for me, I think there's a need for we to also look at the fact of developing our facilities. When these athletes come down, they're able to train with the best of facilities, with the best, coach, down here as well in Nigeria. Send some of these coaches out there, give them the best of training. When they come back, they'll be able to nurture, our athletes, down to the best, down to Olympic standard. We understand it takes a whole lot for you to get to that Olympic standard. But I think with a gradual process, with, putting things right gradually, definitely, of course, we'll get there. We're talking about, Uganda winning the medal at the Olympic. We're talking about Ethiopia, we're talking about Kenya, Egypt, Tunisia, winning the medal, and then we're nowhere to be found on the medal table. Something is really wrong, and I think we have to start somewhere. Facility development, I think, should be key for me at this point. Let's
review Team Nigeria's performances at the Olympic Games continually. Kisley, in your own estimation of the 12 sports discipline, where do you think Nigeria performed most? Yes, not on the medal table, but at least give what looks like a status of the world, as maybe they could have been, like we mentioned, 12 sports discipline. Were they better in football? Were they better in basketball? Were they better in wrestling? Were they better in weightlifting, canoeing? Which other sport? Which sports exactly, in your own opinion, do I say has brought more respect to the country at this Olympics than others?
I think for me it was basketball. Basketball actually. The D Tigers, showed that, they were really ready for this one. They beat third-ranked team, talking about Australia. They were able to get past, Canada to this one. We saw how they were able to battle against the United States of America, getting down to the quarterfinal, the first African football team to get, male or female, to get to the quarterfinals, of the Olympic. That's a very huge record, of course, you will see, for the D Tigers of Nigeria. And for me, I think that's the area, Team Nigeria actually did very, very well, in this particular Olympic. For another area, Nigeria also did well was in the track and field events. We saw some of our athletes getting down to the finals, the likes of Favour Ofili, despite, the controversy that surrounded her, in this particular Olympic. She was able to get down to the 200 meters final, but was so unfortunate that, she couldn't actually give her best in that one. Toby Amusan was also another athlete that tried, but the pressure, understand a little bit of pressure, of course. She didn't do well in the finals of the 100 meters hurdle, where she actually finished 9th place overall in that particular one. So for me, I think we had a little bit of performance in the track and field. Take a look at the 4x400 meters as well. We tried, despite the fact that we were disqualified. Well, we made it, of course, down to the final in that particular one. All of this, for me, I think was really an impressive performance in track and field and as well as basketball.
Talking about Team Nigeria's best sports at the about to be concluded Olympic Games, it is basketball, and let's look at why basketball looks like the best. from the coaching. Rene Wakama employed just about 13 months ago to handle this team, took the team to the Afro Basketball, won the title, and came back to win. She was trusted to get the job done. But again, let's look at how she did the job. She did the job virtually without any home-based athlete. All of the basketball players who saw there were, are based outside of Nigeria, mostly in the United States of America and in Europe. You think this level of, some of them were at the last Olympic Games as well. You think the experience is there, and she only came and, honed it to the quarterfinal of the basketball event at the Olympics.
For me, I think that's what it is. You take a look at most of those players that participated for the Tigers in this particular one. I think these are players that, you know, they ply their trade outside the country, and they're in very good clubs down there. Most of them in the United States, of course, where we know that basketball is very, very cherished. And they understand themselves very well, you know, on the courts. And they were playing, they had that synergy on the court, they had that chemistry. They were not playing for individual glory. And as well, you can also attribute the synergy, the body language of Rena Wakama, not seeing herself as really maybe a coach or probably a leader, but part of the players. You know, you take a look at the likes of, I think, Ezine. She's actually, I think, 30-something, if I'm not mistaken, 30, while Rena Wakama is just 32. So, you see the fact that they were able to see themselves as sisters, that togetherness, of course, was there. And that's where they were playing, you know, for the glory, you know, for the team as well as, you know, for the country, Nigeria as well. So for me, I think Rena Wakama, she's been able to integrate the girls, you know, together. And that's why, of course, they've been able to deliver. Don't forget, we still have we still have some other players that didn't turn up for this one due to what happened last time, you know.
Talking about players who didn't turn up, the captain of the squad, you remember, is not in the squad, and the circumstances where she is not in Paris is difficult to explain, because we are told that she pulled out for personal reasons. A lot of people believe that the authorities that had issues in the past, you know, with her, forced her to pull out of the Olympic Games for personal reasons. Maybe if she was with this team, the team could have maybe gone past the quarterfinals, so you can tell.
Yeah, of course. I think would have probably added, you know, more feathers, you know, to them in this particular one. We saw the game against the United States of America. We saw how they were able to bounce back, I think, in the third quarter of that game.
Even in the fourth quarter?
Fourth quarter, yes. They bounced back very, very strongly in that particular encounter. So I think for her to be there would have added, you know, a little bit of strength to the girls. This is what we're talking about. You know, the NBBF, the last time the girls wanted to go for I think the FIBA World Cup, they didn't give them the opportunities. They said they didn't have funds, you know, and all of that, and they couldn't get to the
girls qualified for the World Cup, and they couldn't go.
So it was very, very disappointing, and most of them were frustrated. I have to go back, and some of them said they were not going to play for the national team anymore.
The Kumike sisters.
Yes, if not Rena Wakama that came, of course, to be able to talk to the girls, bring them together.
I've not played with most of them.
Yes, integrate them back. Wouldn't have maybe even gotten this getting to this stage where we actually got to, you know, in the Paris Olympic Games. So for me, I think there is a lot that needs to be done. Sports, you know, is communication. Sport is psychology. When the psychology of the team is not intact, a lot can happen. Take a look at what happened to Favour Ofili. She was destabilized when she heard that her name was omitted in the 100 meters event. She has to muzzle up to see how she can do well in the 200 meters. Even at that, her best was not still good enough. So for me, I think psychological wise, we have to make sure that our athletes are stable. And with that, I think they can go out there and get things done properly.
Team Nigeria taking part in the 2024 Paris Olympic Games in 12 sports with over 80 athletes, and none of them could return back to Nigeria with a medal of any color. No gold, no silver, no bronze, and it's becoming very disturbing. At the last Olympic Games, we thought it was one of our worst. At least we garnered two medals. I don't know was in the color of gold, but at least we had a medal. We are on the medal table. But this time around, out of nearly 200 countries, Nigeria is not on the medal table. In Africa, we've seen at least 10 other African countries on the medal table without Nigeria, and it's becoming very, very disturbing. Well, we hope that the minister will come and make good his promise of ensuring that there is proper investigation and, of course, putting the right pegs in the right holes, because He's talked about the federation election that is coming up and that you have to scrutinize and see those who are coming to run the federations. Do they have the capacity to run the federations? On his own part, he believes that ministry has provided or government has provided funds. But again, for us here, we believe the funds came too late and did little to improve on the fortunes of the team. So we have to learn how first to improve on our facilities, put in structure that can discover talents and know where to hone these talents and bring them to Olympic standard. It doesn't take the next 4 years. I must tell you, we must be methodical. We've seen an example of Morocco who have done it and they are beginning to reap fruits of that investment over a period of time. And talking about investment reminds me, Kingsley, just before we go on break, Rene Wakama, arguably the best coach, on the continent of Africa, at this year's Olympic Games, at least by the results so far, has asked for proper investment into basketball and sports generally in Nigeria. She should know what she's talking about.
Yeah, of course, definitely. She knows what she's talking about because
it's not only investment in funds, at least in human resources as well. Definitely. The officials.
Looking back, of course, looking back down here in the country, just like we mentioned, we didn't see the home-based players in the D Tigers team. What happened? I think the last Nigerian Women Basketball League, MFM won it. There were players in the MFM women basketball team that were very formidable enough. But I think in the eyes of Rene Wakama, they were not up to standard. And she cannot gamble. This is Olympic. And we were in a group of death. At no time, you don't have to take any chance. And that's why she has to go with the players. Of course, she really, understand that their game, and all of that. So for me, I think she's actually on point when she says that there need to be proper investments in sports down here in Nigeria. We should try and kind to see how we can groom players, get the best of facilities, develop officials, develop coaches, give them the best of training. You can probably send them outside the country to go and gather knowledge, experience, come back and groom the young talents we have in the country. And then at the end of the day, we'll not be complaining, oh, we don't have this or we don't have that. Maybe we cannot participate in all of that. Take a look at the sports, some of the sports we participated in the Olympics. You talk about canoeing, you talk about cycling, you talk about swimming. Those are things that we don't even practice here as sports. Yes, for some time now, we don't even practice that, as sport. Canoeing, when was the last time we had a canoeing event in Nigeria? The last time we had a cycling event was 2 years ago in Abuja. Since then, nothing much about cycling. And they talk about, swimming as well. But we have some of those things that can possibly help us, but we don't utilize them. We depend on foreign-made athletes at some point. So despite the fact that, yes, we have people out there that could possibly come represent the country, we should see how we can start breeding, nurturing people down here. And that will only come if we put that method of maybe making sure that we start from 1, 2, 3, and make sure we have everything intact, facility-wise, and see how we can.
Okay, let's look at administration as well. Administration, because we have to wrap up. Administration. If you look at it, at this year's Olympic, we have a Nigerian who has won gold medal for United States of America. Yeah. We have a Nigerian who has won gold medal for, I think, Canada, for Bahrain, and in some other sports, we've seen Nigerians win medals of other color apart from gold for this country. Yeah. These are Nigerians who wanted to compete for Nigeria. If you remember, there was a particular case of a lady who wanted to participate for Nigeria, but because of her not being tested properly out of competition at the Tokyo Olympic Games, she went and changed nationality
to United States.
To United States of America. And hammer throw, and she's now a gold medalist in the hammer throw. So, what do we do about administration, especially because we don't seem to be adept in administering these sports? Yeah. There's a lot of talk about insurance, pension scheme for these athletes who do everything to represent the country. We don't seem to be hearing anything much about it, and this in itself do not lure athletes. That's why you see most Nigerian athletes or change nationality or want to compete for other nations, where most of these things are alluring or attractive to them.
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Sira. I tell you, I think administrative-wise, we have to do better. We really have to do better. First of all, we have to start with those who are the helm of affairs of the different sporting federations, in the country. Are they credible? Are they committed? Do they have the interests of the athletes? That's it. Another thing we have to look at is the welfare of this athlete. I think for me, if you take a look at it, we're one of the lowest in terms of the prize money for the medals. Team Nigeria pays $5,000 for gold medal, $3,000 for silver, and $2,000 for bronze medal. If you take a look at countries like, let's say, Hong Kong, which I saw Hong Kong and other countries as well, the likes of Singapore, they pay their athlete very huge in terms of prize money for the medals and all of that, and even have other incentive for these athletes,
like insurance schemes and pension for them.
So at the end of the day, when you as an athlete, when you sit down and take a look at all of this, you want to think twice. Despite, yes, it's your country, you're from Nigeria, but you want to think twice. Take a look at what happened to, okay, the lady we're talking about, the lady that participated in hammer throw, Annette. She was in the Tokyo Olympic, and she was actually disqualified due to poor administration. There was no out of competition test, and she was disqualified. She went down to the United States of America in the space of 4 years, and she came back and won a medal for the United States of America. So I think for me, we should try to do better, and this is a wake-up call. Thank God for John Waneno. Since he came in, I think the man has been hardworking, and this is the time he has to put his eyes on the ground to check everything one after the other. Who are those at the end of affairs of different federations? They should be held responsible for anything that go wrong when it has to do with sports in Nigeria. So for me, it's not about dolly money or we are ready, we have 12 billion and all of that. Things have to be done properly. And I think for me, we have to do better in terms of administration of sports in the country.
Very difficult. Nigeria has been participating in the Olympic Games over a period of about 70 years or so. But we've never, this is really, really bad when you talk about money spent and, of course, the number of athletes we took there without returning with any medal. Well, in the days ahead, we'll continue to review Team Nigeria's participation at the Olympic Games, what should be done, and how it should be done. But for now, let's take a break. When we return for a break, we'll look at the other African countries, how they performed at the Olympic Games, and of course, the rest of the world. We've seen some time returns, the fastest woman and the fastest man. Well, the time they return, is it really, really fastest when you consider what we've seen in the past at the Olympic Games? When we return from the break, we'll equally let you know who are the winners of this year's Community Shield in England. Return of football across Europe kickstarts with the Community Shield. Manchester City and Manchester United have been in action. We'll give you results of that match just before we wrap up the show. Stay with us.
From the line across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economy, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today. Only on ATN.
That is amazing.
Honorable
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable
On the point.
They are not picking our calls. They made up their minds.
So no agreement with the EU, but
Welcome back. A Sports Extraordinary Weekend edition here. We're taking a review of the ongoing Paris Olympic Games. With just hours to the closing ceremony, we now know that Team Nigeria will not be on the medal table courtesy of Verd as Bismarck performance, but that is being reviewed in the days ahead. But some African countries, in fact, it looks like unprecedented. We've had over 10 African countries on the medal table. Kenya leading with 1 gold medal, 2 gold medal, and Algeria equally have 2 gold medals as well, with South Africa in the 3rd place position with 1 gold medal. Kingsley, we have Ethiopia, we have Uganda, there is Morocco, there is Botswana, there is Tunisia, there is Cape Verde, there is Egypt, Zambia, as well as the other African countries who have all made it to the medal table at the games there. What could have been responsible for this number of African countries, entering onto the medal table for the first time in numbers than we've seen in the previous Olympic Games?
For me, I think is as a result of sport development so far. You take a look at the Kenyans in the long distance races, they had dominance, 800 meters.
Yeah, especially in the 5,000, 10,000. Yes. We have Chipke. She won in both the 5,000 meters and the 100 meters, 10,000 meters. And it's the first time we've seen a Kenyan athlete win double at that event, and that looks very cheering. I think there's something the Kenyans are doing, especially they concentrate on their area of discipline, and they just improve on it and do it. Because we saw, like we said, Beatrice Chibet winning the 10,000 meters in about 30 minutes 43.25 seconds, and that was very cheering after she won the 5,000 meters, a few days ago. This is, if you look at it, she took out the defending champion, Sifana Hassan of the Netherlands. Yeah. She stopped her from winning back-to-back gold medal in that one. So I think it is very, very cheering that we're having, an African push a defending champion at the Olympic Games to a 3rd place position. Because we saw Kenya winning first and second.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a good one. Know your strength. That's one thing, even as a human being, know your strength. When you know your strengths, you know how far you can go in life, and all of that. And that's what the Kenyans, of course, they've done. They know where they can major more. That's the long distance races, and they're able to capitalize on that. For how many years now? It's over a decade or more than a decade, you could say. The Kenyans have been dominating when it has to do with long distance races, and whenever whichever any competition they go, they make sure they major on it, and they've been doing very well. So I think if other African countries can also pick up on what the Kenyans are doing, take a sport that you can come out and then do something and major on that, and then definitely you can get something. Morocco also got a medal in football events. You can understand the development of football in Morocco.
Talking about Morocco and football, just quickly reminds me, Morocco in the last few years have been winning virtually everything in football in Africa, yeah? From the CAF Champions League to the under 17, under 20, African Cup of Nations, and now they've won bronze medal. They beat Egypt, in the bronze medal event, a classification match to enter onto the medal table. Like we said, there's something the Moroccans did in the past. They've done this in the last 20 years, and it's beginning to yield results for them. We need to copy that and see how we can even improve on it. And but which other African country really surprised you to enter onto the medal table?
Botswana. Where we saw Tobago getting 200 meters in the final.
Finals. That's straight, because in Africa, no African has ever won the 200 meters event. You're beating the Americans to their own area of specialty. That's a big one for Botswana. And of course, there was a public holiday they declared in honor of Tobago, who won the 200 meters event.
And for me, I think it was a very lovely one. We saw him, of course, coming up with that impressive, performance. Yes, we understand the livelihood of the fact that the man who was supposed to get that one, talked about no one lies, he tested positive and couldn't compete. Yes, but for me, I think it was his turn. Talking about Tobago, his was actually his own, and that's why he was even able to get down to the, he was able to do this one. If he wasn't at his best, no matter the fact that no one lies was in this one, he won't have gotten it. So for me, I think it has taken a whole lot, and we hear a lot of accolade coming down for the man. We hear the government of Botswana has promised him a lot, houses, cars, and all of that. So I think for me, is a good one. It's a history for him and as well for Botswana.
Well, talking about the Olympic Games, we've told you how the Africans have performed. Kenyan, with the most medal, 2 gold medal. Of course, gold comes first, followed by, the other African countries. South Africa as well, they did so well. We saw them, winning, some crucial matches, events at the Olympic Games there. And I think it's really, really good for South Africa, getting a total of 5 medals at the end of the day, coming third and out there. Let's quickly look at maybe the other rest of the world now, because the Olympic Games is coming there. Yes, few hours to the end of the tournament, but China now looks good at winning this year's Olympic Games in terms of medals. They've had as many as 34 gold medals as compared to 33 won by United States of America.
It's been
one more, and maybe anything could happen.
Definitely, anything could happen. Today is the D-Day, and maybe the United States of America might just, but I think China, they have what it takes to hold their own. It's been a very tough battle between China and the United States of America. It's been a very, very tough one, and they've been fantastic in almost all the events, and that's why we've seen them racking these numbers of medals. So just keep our fingers crossed and see if China, of course, will take the lead at the end of the day.
China, meanwhile, continuing to lead on the medal table. United States of America giving a very hot chase. Australia is next, and have Japan as well following up there. Host nation France is, I think, around 4th or 5th on the medal table. But let's look at it now. Just some top highlights. United States of America winning gold medal in the 100 meters event, and for male and female. And you think
they also did well in the 4x400 meters in women as well.
Yeah, but 4x100 meters we saw, them without a gold medal. This is the first time in about 24 years that America would not be winning gold medal in the 4x100 meters event. And from what we saw a few hours ago, it was another case of misplaced batting. They couldn't properly place batting, and it's becoming worrisome that the United States of America could as well not properly exchange batting. They've dropped batting 11 times in the last 29 years. So I think it's not what we say of African countries.
We think it used to be.
We think it just be for African countries. But the United States of America missed a gold medal because of poor exchange of batting there, and I think it's really bad for them. But yeah, what can we say? Even the best, sometimes fumble, and it's becoming more furious. In fact, what is his name now? Leonard Lewis is of the opinion that they should drop all the officials that were involved with the team because of that incident of poor exchange of batting. They are very livid about it. That it shouldn't happen, but it had happened. And so, United States of America without a gold medal in the 4x100 meters event. But overall, I think they've done so well, at least living up to it. What do you think, the host nation?
Yeah, for the host nation, I
France?
think France hasn't been that rosy. Yes, we've seen them, of course, putting up some level of performance, in different events. I think in the football events, we saw them being hosted out, by Spain. They got to the finals in the football events. They were actually being hosted out by Spain in that particular one. And in the basketball event, we saw how dogged, of course, they were. Now, I think they're also in the final, as it is. So it's been a little bit rosy for them, taking a look at, all the events as well. But, they are fifth now on the log. Anything can change. They might possibly, maybe finish fourth or third at the end of the day. But for me, I think it hasn't been a very bad outing for France.
Well, the Olympic Games is just getting to be rounded up. The closing ceremony is almost here with us, and on our subsequent edition of our program, we'll bring you highlights of the opening ceremony, and of course, take a review of it holistically and see where we can get better. But for Team Nigeria, a lot needs to be done about it. Let's stay away from the Olympics now quickly and begin to wrap up the show with some football stories. Kingsley, the Community Shield has heralded the beginning of the 2024-2025 football season across Europe. But in England today, this weekend, we saw Manchester United against Manchester City at the Wembley Stadium. These two teams, they've met a couple of times, and the Wembley Stadium, it looks like it is front and back. And the last time they met, it was Manchester United that won. Yes. Of course, that was in the FA Cup. But in the Community Shield like this, Manchester City seems to know what to do to Man City. He ended 1-1 at regulation time, and in penalties, it was one goal that separated the two of them.
Yes, I think for me, it's a good one. It was really an intense encounter when you take a look at it. Both teams actually started as if, they've not really gotten back themselves, after the break. But at some point, when it started getting tough, we saw them first coming up. Few changes down there from Pep Guardiola actually, of course, helped him to put up that equalizer through Bernardo Silva, bringing the likes of Kevin De Bruyne as well. And that game also helped them. For Manchester United, I think Eric Ten Hag also was a little bit fantastic, with his substitution. Bringing the likes of Mark Tomini as well was also very instrumental. We saw Garnacho, one man who has troubled Manchester City, since last season, also came up in this one. But it was a very intense encounter, and with all of the issues with Manchester United, winning this one at least would have been a huge morale booster for them heading down to the season, a huge level of confidence, for them. But losing, I think, is not something they have to panic, because the Community Shield, they still have to put themselves, they understand their injury worries for United. But I think Eric Ten Hag should keep his eyes away from injury and see what he can be able to do with this Manchester United side. But good one for City. Good way, of course, to start. Last season wasn't like that when they lost against Arsenal, but starting with the Community Shield, I think maybe it will be bright, for Manchester City this time. Well,
we have to wrap up the show. Our Sports Extra for this weekend couldn't have come from any other place rather than the Olympic Games, and it has to be the Spanish national under-23 side. They beat their counterparts from France by 5-3. This is the first time in the over 100 years of playing football at the Olympic Games that we've seen the finalists or the goal-winning side scoring as many as 5 goals in 90 minutes plus added time. But that's not the reason for me why I think they are Sports Extra for the weekend. They won goal, yes, no doubt about it. But they've beaten this France side. They've beaten France. Spain beating France 3 times in 1 month. Yeah. If you remember, the Euro 2024, at the under-19 level and the under-23 level now, Spain always triumphing. And beyond that, Spain looks like the new thing in football. They've won virtually everything, both for male and female in football. Talking about the World Cup for male and female, Champions League mentioned. And so, looks like Spain is now the new maker of football, not Brazil anymore.
Not Brazil. They are now the hope when it comes to the breeding talents. Bulk of the players that have played in this Olympic game came from Barcelona Academy, La Masia. And of course, when you take a look at it, they know how to breed talents, and that's what we've known, Spain for. They don't just breed names, but they bring out talent, and that's what we're seeing. So what happened in the Euro 2024 Euro Championship where the likes of Yami Lama, Nico Williams, Omo, Gavi, you could mention that these are young players. They are very sharp and very, very technical on the ball. And I think for me that when you talk about talent breeding in Spain, they are really doing that. And it's going to take a whole lot, for other countries to catch up with them if they don't also toe that same direction. You take a look at what they are doing in their different academy now, breeding players. And I think that's why they've been able to achieve, this in this short, space of time. So for me, kudos to them putting up that one. It was so unfortunate for Thierry Henry, who was the manager for the French national side. I think this is his first final, and of course he lost it. But I think the Spanish guys were good enough. Well, the Spanish were good enough. They used to be underachievers, but they're now the king of football in the world. And that will be it for this weekend. We'll return back next weekend when we'll take a further in-depth look at the Olympic Games and how everybody, all the over 200 countries have performed. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly pathways to progress. Always enjoy here on Atlantic Television Network.